presidential election is tomorrow. Both candidates getting massive support from Silicon Valley as the tech industry weighs what is at stake. Well, joining us now is Bradley Tusk, co-founder of Tusk Ventures Partners. He's also the author of the book Vote with Your Phone, in which he makes the case for mobile voting. He has also said he is endorsing Vice President Harris. Bradley, it's great to have you on. And before I start getting into election outcomes and policy implications, I do want to just take a step back and ask a really basic question about the fact that it does seem like venture capitalists have been much more open, public, big money raisers this election cycle, more so than we've seen in the past, whether that is in fact the case, and if so, what it signals about what is in fact at stake for this election.
It's probably representative of two things. The first is part of it is just some really high-profile people have gotten involved, and obviously the most important one there is Elon Musk. While he's a founder and not a VC, he's connected to the ecosystem in every way, and so everything he does gets a lot of attention. But the other thing is, I think VCs are realizing that politics matter, regulation matters, and who's in charge and the issues that they care about has a big impact on the future of their portfolio companies. And if you want those companies to be treated fairly, you need a seat at the table, and that comes from getting involved.
So let's play this game about election outcomes and what that's going to mean for policy implications. Because, yes, there's some differences between these two candidates, but there's also potentially some similarities. And so I wonder what that means from an antitrust standpoint for tech companies when you have a current administration in which Harris is a part of that's been very aggressive about that. But some of those same suits actually started under the last administration with Trump. So what that looks like, what it also means when you're talking about two candidates that are arguably both going to be hawkish on China, China, and this disentangling, very different country. Disentangling of tech supply chains, et cetera.
Yeah. Well, look, I think on antitrust, maybe it helps sort of split it up into two different categories, right? So the first category is specifically going after big tech. So Google, Amazon, Apple, Meta, those companies. And I think that there is a lot of support on both sides of the aisle for doing that. And we've seen J.D. Vance say that he actually supports what Lina Khan is doing there. Then the other group, and this is where I think Republicans and a lot of Democrats also really have a problem, is the general FTC antipathy towards mergers and acquisitions overall. And the reason why that's a problem is it has had a chilling effect kind of across the ecosystem. And so as a result, you're seeing less companies get funded, less new company formation. All that means less innovation. And so if companies think that an acquisition is going to get blocked by the FTC and that there's no way it'll happen, then there's just less M&A activity. And most tech exits, as much as we love IPOs, are not IPOs, they're M&A. And so I think that it is important that at the very least the tenor of the FTC change around that. I think it's pretty likely that it would under Trump. It probably would under Harris too. I think that she has certainly, as you just showed, gotten support from a bunch of prominent VCs who will have influence with her. And so, I think that we're probably in for better treatment either way.
Bradley, when I was coming up in Silicon Valley reporting about 25 years ago, the ecosystem, tech, chips, telecom used to stay out of politics because of, I think, the history as a government contractor and big government research area. It seems to me that has just sort of shifted, perhaps forever, because you've got elements on either side of the political aisle now in tech trying to counterbalance each other. Where do you think we go from here?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the first thing is, look, just the whole world has gotten more political in the last 25 years, and the advent of social media has sort of made it impossible for lots of people to stay out of politics who used to be able to avoid it. You guys have obviously conversations all the time on CNBC about, how corporations should deal with different social and political issues. So this has become the new norm. I think that ultimately the role of Silicon Valley has gone from a government-funded kind of research institution into the premier driver of technology and innovation for the entire globe. And as a result, not wanting to upset someone in government is no longer the absolute priority. And people realize that who gets appointed has a big impact, right? So if we take crypto, the Biden administration has been very, very anti-crypto, and that has had a really big impact on the sector and on the industry. And so it makes sense that that sector has sort of gotten really involved, has put a lot of pressure on both candidates and on, legislative candidates as well. And I think that that's the world that we live in. And I think once the genie's out of the bottle, it doesn't go back in.